I build online communities for businesses, and that's what I've been doing for the last 10 years. And I've become really curious as I've been building these communities with businesses, is what is this sense of community that we're all talking about and trying to build, and why is it important for business? So I think we can recognize that we're all part of a variety of tribes. The ICT-Kring is a tribe, for example, and I'm part of a tribe that you're all part of, which is we started our small business a few years ago, and it's hopefully doing well tribe. And we started these businesses because we have a passion, we had an idea, and we wanted to bring this idea out into the world. And so we started our business with a lot of enthusiasm. And over time, there's a lot of things that weigh us down. There's a lot of things that dilute that passion. We have taxes, and we have insurance, and we have equipment, and we have to wear all these different hats, right? We have to be salespeople, and we have to be marketing people, and we have to develop things and distribute things, and we also have employees at some point that are helping us with this business. And some of those employees are not as engaged as we are. They're not very passionate as well. And in fact, there was a survey that just came out this year. It was a global employee engagement survey, and they said that it was as many as 40% of employees hated their jobs. It's a lot of people that hate their jobs. And when we don't like our jobs, then our businesses fail to survive in changing environments. We need to like our jobs in order to innovate and to have the energy to be motivated and to create new things. So the Gallup Survey is a really popular American workplace survey on employee engagement and customer satisfaction. And in this year's Gallup Survey, they said that the most engaged workers come up with most of the innovative ideas, create most of the company's new customers, and have the most entrepreneurial energy. And I think we can all think of people that we know that love their jobs. They love what they're doing, and they have all kinds of energy. And when I was thinking about this, I thought of Paul. This is my ex-boyfriend, he's Paul. And Paul was kind of an unusual guy because he was really joyful, like unusually joyful. He loved being alive, just totally loved it. And when we first started dating, he would wake up in the morning and jump out of the bed and say, "I wonder what adventure we're going to have today." And I was like, all right, it's going well, right? And then after we moved in together, I realized that that wasn't just when we were together, that was every single day. And I'm kind of like a coffee kind of person, so it was a little annoying at times. But what I got from it, and what I thought was kind of amazing, was the enthusiasm in which he started the day and what he brought to work, and how much people loved being around him, and the cool projects that they did together because of this energy and this enthusiasm that he had. And it got me thinking, well, how do we make our businesses places where great things happen like this, where we and our employees get together every day and we think, well, let's just make the best everything. Why not? Why don't we just make it the best? So it just got me thinking about that, and I've been studying that as I go over the years. And the first thing that I want to start with, of course, is just talk about community. And there's lots of different ingredients that come into play when we make community, but there's a few things that are solid overall. And a community, of course, is just a group of people with common interests. So very simple definition. And so we have a shared mission. And a lot of people want to align employees around the business mission, or we're all aligned around the mission of the business. And I think, yeah, that's ideal, of course, but it's not very realistic. And the example I thought of was this company that I worked for starting around 10 years ago. We were building an online project management tool. Totally great tool. It was a virtual team. We worked from all over the world. And the CEO built this tool because he didn't want to die. And what he was trying to do was get longevity scientists from all over the world to come together, share data, and solve the problem of aging. He really didn't want to die. Now, I think this is a great cause. It's very noble. I totally want the same thing. It wasn't what I woke up every morning with and like, yeah, I want to get longevity scientists together. That just wasn't my thing. But what I could align myself around was we're getting people together from all over the world to solve problems in a new way. That was exciting to me. So whereas we don't need to align our employees around the overall business mission, we could have a development team aligned around solving a particular technical problem. That could be very exciting for them. So a shared mission is a really important ingredient of a community. Now the next two ingredients are are, the first is the shared resources, and I don't just mean sharing of resources, I mean a generous sharing of resources, where information is flowing where it needs to go, people are connecting people to each other. All of a sudden, you ask like, I really need somebody to translate this book, and people are jumping up and volunteering, like, I can do it in French, I know somebody who can do it in Chinese. Like there's just this generous sharing that's happening. And the other is a sense of play, where we get together and it's just a safe place to say, well, I wonder what happens if we push this button, or what if we pour these two things together, or what if I built an instrument that shoots fire? Like, what would that do? So there's just this sense of needing to play. And of course, with business, it's not really the first priority of having our employees play. But one of the things that came to mind was a client that I'm working with right now, and they were having a really difficult time prioritizing all of the development tasks that they needed to get done for the next 2 months. And it wasn't just a matter of prioritization, but it was also a matter of aligning the stakeholders around understanding what was being prioritized and why. So there was sort of an understanding that was needed. And one of the guys, his name is Tom, he was looking at, okay, well, how can I do this? How can I do this in a way that's efficient for the company? And he came up with this game, he found it online, and I can't remember what it's called now, but he took and he wrote down all the tasks on sticky notes and put them upside down on the table. And he called the meeting with all the stakeholders and the CEO, who was not pleased, by the way, with that we were about to play a game. But he was like, okay, I'm going to give it a shot. You have 1 hour. So we put all the sticky notes face down, and what we did is the first person comes up, grabs a note, and says, okay, this is the task that needs to be done, and he puts it on the wall on a timeline sort of priorities. It says, okay, I think this should go here. This is where I see this priority fitting in. And then the next person has the option of either taking this note and placing it somewhere else on the priority line, or choosing a new task, and then placing it where they think. And we go on and on and on in a circle, everybody giving their justification for why they're doing it. And eventually we have a 2-month timeline of all the tasks that need to be done. Everybody understands why they are the way they are, and they might not agree, but we all understand why they're being placed where they are. And the last ingredient was, well, it was super fun. I mean, we all got a chance to speak our minds about every single task, everybody got their say, and we had a really good time. So that's what I mean by play. There's some really productive things that we can do in our companies that are a little bit more playful. So now the next thing I want to show is a quick video, and we're not going to watch the whole thing. But this is a video, I think, that really shows the whole idea of a shared mission, the generous sharing of resources, and the ability to play in order to solve a problem. And it's about a group of kids who live on a small island in the south of Thailand, and they love football. And their problem is there is not a single flat meter of space on this island. There's nowhere to play football, so then how do they solve that problem? So we can finish the video after the presentation if you want, but needless to say, the kids end up doing okay. So we've got the shared mission, and we've got the sharing of resources. I mean, it was pretty creative what they came up with. We have the sense of play where they're like, well, let's just try it. I mean, And the next thing that we need in the community, of course, is connection. It's the connection between the employees and the connection between each other, and that's a really important component, I think. And we're really good at talking about, well, we need to hire the right people. It's really, we just need to hire the right people. But I think the other side of that, and maybe the not so positive side of that, is that we also need to fail people quickly when we hire them. If they're not working out, if they're not a good fit, we need to take them off the team. And I think that doesn't happen often enough. And when people don't fit in, they're really a drain on the rest. They're an emotional drain on the rest of the team, for one. And of course, there's the monetary drain. So I just bring that up because it's something that I see a lot. So we've got these components. We've got the shared mission, we've got the play, we've got the shared resources, and the thing that really brings it all together then is the place. And the place can be a floating football field. The place is usually an office, but the place can be online. And it's a whole new world now. I don't want to just touch on it. I could talk about this all day because remote working is a super subject of mine. It's something I feel passionately about, but we'll keep it to a short thing on this presentation. But the online capabilities that we now have for building communities is huge, and the capabilities that it gives us in business is really big. And there's a lot of controversy about, well, shall we let people work remotely? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? And the answer is it depends for every business. It's totally situational. But the truth is that you're already working remotely. You're already working online. You probably have subcontractors that you're managing through various tools. There's, of course, all the social media. There's the collaboration tools that we use, whether it's a Trello board or the Google Documents. I mean, we're already working online in some ways. And for me, I've been doing it so long now, there's just this old way of working, and this is a real office that I was in. I didn't set this up. This really is an office. So there's this old way of working, and then now there's a new way of working, and there's a new way of doing business. And I spent 2 years traveling the world working from a van. And I was managing a team of people in California who were building websites and doing video tutorials. And I won't say it was problem-free, but it was possible. And so for workers, it really opens up the possibility of working on technology and on projects and with people that you really like and that you really care about and that you find exciting. And for businesses, it gives businesses the opportunity now. You're no longer relegated to the person in the room or in the town. You can now find the resources that you need. If you're creative, there's lots of tools available. But the breadth and the reach of our businesses are now growing because of the online capabilities and things that we're doing. So here's where we go tribal. So, I mean, we can see that the sense of community in a business is really important, and the idea of online working is really interesting. But what is this tribal thing and how does it work? And the first question I always ask is, well, what's the difference between a community and an organization? And the answer that always comes back is, well, the structure. I mean, if you ask somebody to draw what is the structure of an organization, you can see where this is going, you're going to get the typical org chart. I mean, it's even the default template in PowerPoint, right? And so that's how you know it's bad. No, but I'm kidding. I mean, organizational hierarchies are really important. It allows us to move information quickly. It allows us to categorize things. And there's a reason why the org chart is the default, because it is really useful. But our businesses, they're not hierarchies. Our businesses are networks. And it's interesting to think of, well, how it would be if we set up our businesses more as a network instead of a hierarchy. And that's the first component of tribal business. Jürgen Appelo, in his recent book, Management 3.0, he says, the new organizational structure of the 21st century is the network, not the hierarchy. Workers in modern business need connections and not control. And the focus of management should be on leadership, not governance. And he really touches here, and I'll go into it a little bit more, on all the components of what exactly a tribal business is. So it's the network and not the hierarchy. So one company that sets themselves up specifically and calls themselves tribal is Spotify. And they're, of course, the online music maker. They're changing the way that we listen to music online. And they have a company of over 800 people from all over the world. And their goal was to create an environment that the employees were autonomous, that they could scale big but not slow down. They wanted to be able to develop fast still. So they were trying to figure out, well, how do we create a big company that still develops fast? So what they've done is they've divided themselves into squads. And so each squad has about 5 to 7 people. They're cross-functional. They're co-located, so you're in the same place with your squad. And when you get hired at Spotify, you work with your squad. Now, there's this, you can see this chapter here across the top. Because they're cross-functional, you want to be able to get people with the same disciplines together. So the marketing people want to be able to talk to each other and share skills. The development people want to be able to do the same thing. So they have meetings or situations where they can get those people together so they can share ideas across the company. And as they grew, they were finding that after about 150 people, that people will stop knowing each other. So then they created tribes of about 150 people. And these people really own their particular piece of the product. They have full control and autonomy to create the product as they wish. And so where we can see there is hierarchical structure here, of course, this is a new kind of organization of a business in a more network way. The next company that's doing this is called Happy Melly. It's a company that I'm a part of. I sit on the board of directors for this company. And what they do is they bring great ideas to knowledge workers via podcasts, training courses, books, events, all kinds of things. And they have a distributed network of stakeholders all over the world. And they run themselves via a constitution, much like a country would do. And the CEO is voted in by the stakeholders. And the interesting part about that is that he can be voted out at any time. So he's accountable to his employees, to his stakeholders, every single day. So we can see that it's the network and not the hierarchy. That's probably the most important and main component. But the next part of it is leadership. And in the old organizational structure with the hierarchy, it's sort of a top-down command and control structure. This is the task, this is how you're going to do it, and this is when it needs to be done by. Go do it. So in the tribal business, it's more of a leadership by governance, where you're given, the leader sets the purpose, and autonomy, and how they want to get that task done, and what they want to do. And I have this very simple example of how this is done, and that a few months ago, I hired a personal assistant to help me just do a bunch of stuff. I'm writing a book, and so there's a bunch of stuff that wasn't getting done. My sister's birthday gift is still sitting on my shelf, and her birthday was in January. So I thought, okay, I've got to do something about this. So I hired a personal assistant, and I said, Helena, I'm going out of town for a week. Here's a big pile of stuff. And the task is, when I come back, I want this pile of stuff to be gone. I don't care what you do with it. So I've set the goal, and I've set the boundaries. Pile of stuff needs to be gone. Boundary is, I don't care what you do with it, it just needs to be gone. So if she had been short on time or maybe creativity, she could have thrown it all away. Didn't matter to me. I didn't care what happened to the stuff. Or she could have given it to a secondhand store. She could do anything she wanted. And what she ended up doing was selling it. So in the week that I was gone, she put it all on Marktplatz and some other places, and she ended up selling all my stuff and made a decent amount of money. And I thought, wow, great. And when I came home, my stuff was gone, and that was what I wanted. So I came home from the vacation, I thought, this is great. Clutter-free house, all that stuff, it's all gone. So that's sort of a very simple example of giving somebody autonomy in which to do what they want to do. So of course it's the leader, the tribal leader then sets the purpose, gives the team the autonomy on how to do the task. The team then takes the resources that they have, the commitment that they have to each other, they're in a place, whether it's virtual or whether it's physical, and they master the task. They build what they think is the best way. And that leads to motivation. That is motivating for employees. And we get engaged employees. And this isn't an equation that I made up by myself. This is, I have the quote here. This was actually outlined in the Daniel Pink book, Drive. So I'll get back to this quote in a second. So it's not something that I made up. This is what leads to motivation. This is one of the methods. And it's not just about engaged employees. I mean, we talked a lot about this, but it's also engaging ourselves and motivating ourselves as business owners. And I did a hangout a couple of weeks ago, in which Google Hangout, in which I interviewed 5 entrepreneurs from around the world. And one of the questions I asked them was, what motivates you as an entrepreneur? And the answer I got back was, what motivates me is when I see the idea that I had become bigger than itself. When my employees have innovated and created upon my idea and it became bigger and better than I ever imagined it. That's what motivated me as an entrepreneur. And I was like, oh yeah, that really makes sense. And so I see it as a two-way street. We've got the engaged employees, and also as entrepreneurs then, we're also motivating ourselves. And I think that's a key component not to forget about. The hangouts on air are really cool too, if you haven't done it. So we have this quote from Tom Kelly, and he says, the ultimate freedom for creative groups is the freedom to experiment with new ideas. And some skeptics insist that innovation is expensive, and in the long run, innovation is cheap. It's mediocrity that's expensive, and autonomy can be the antidote. And I thought that really summarized really well the idea of autonomy. And it's a little bit scary maybe, but I have the faith in people that they're going to do creative, great things. And the last point that of tribal business here that he touches on is the experimentation. And we talked about it a little bit with the community and the ability to play, but really with the tribal business, it's the willingness to run experiments at all times. It's the, let's try combining these things and see what happens, and measure it, of course, and record the results. And let's try doing this over here and seeing what happens. It's the willingness to really try new crazy things and combining things. So we've got the network and not the hierarchy. We've got the leadership and not the top-down command and control. And then it's the ability to run experiments at all times. And I really like the idea of Tom's game of just sort of experimenting with the priorities and where do we end up with that. And those are really what the key ingredients are for the tribal business and what sets it apart. And it doesn't seem so different than what we're doing now, but it's really just slight variations on the theme that causes it to be different. And so I think that by playing with all of these things in our own businesses, that we can really make places where great things happen, where we and the employees that we work with can really get together and make the best everything. And that given the opportunity, we will make the best everything. Oops, wrong direction. And that's all. Questions if you have any?
How do you feel about Google stripping the 20% of time that employees can spend on whatever they like, experimenting? Can you comment on that?
It was a very generous thing to offer employees to do that. But it's also a double-edged sword a little bit, right? I mean, that's 20%. As a business owner, I would think 20% of your time. And also the projects that they were creating, they wasn't entirely their own. It could have been, but it was really a pressure to create something for the company also. I'm conflicted on it. I think, what a great idea, but then in reality, as a business owner, I'm conflicted on it. Yeah, it's a great idea. It allows people to do, I don't know, somebody else might want to comment if you have strong feelings one way or the other, but I'm really conflicted.
Just trial and error.
Trial and error.
Yeah, trial and error, why not? Why not?
Yeah, and when it's not working anymore, they stop it.
Just give it.
Could you elaborate a bit on the leadership role in the context of tribal business? You talked a bit about giving people autonomy, but what's involved, what do you actually mean when you say leadership?
Yeah, it's more guiding people and helping them find the resources that they need, and not, it's been so focused on, like, this task needs to be done, you must do it in this way in the past, that it's more that, okay, this is what, here's the vision, here's the purpose, and we have this much budget, and we have this much time, and, we're located right here, so these are the boundaries in which you have to do this task. It's more stepping back a little bit.
More of a supporting role.
Yeah, it really is more of a supporting role. In Jurgen, in his presentations, he says before it was the people serving the corporation, and now it's more the corporation serving the people, and I think that's the same in this role as leadership. It's more helping the team and guiding the team and just making sure they're connecting in the ways that they need to connect, instead of like, hey, is this done yet? Is this done yet? As an employee, that must be more motivating.
Is stepping away the only way to get autonomous workers? Or like how do you create this autonomy? Like you said like creating the boundaries, and but is that it? Because I notice current banks that I'm talking with, they have a lot of difficulties, especially with younger people, to get them to employ initiatives, for example, to create autonomous tasks.
Yeah, that's a whole subject in and of itself, is the creating the autonomy around the employees. And development teams are doing it with their daily stand-ups so that people just don't get too far off track. And I kind of feel that the whole agile methodologies is moving from development and IT all into marketing and HR, and where people are really taking things in smaller chunks. And so it might just be that, they're implementing a daily stand-up so that people don't go off too far in the wrong direction before they come back, or, yeah, it's an experimentation. I mean, it's a whole subject in and of itself, too. And I'm not an expert on the leadership, how to create an autonomous team. I just noticed that in the tribal businesses, that tends to be a guiding thing. I mean, Spotify, when you hear them talk about how they set up their company, autonomy is the first thing that comes up. They were specific about setting it up so that people remain as autonomous as possible. So it seems to just be a theme everywhere. And also with Happy Melly, it's not, the CEO doesn't say, this is what we're going to do. It's more people coming around with ideas and presenting them to other people and making it happen. And of course, there's always some sort of hierarchy. There's got to be, somebody has the vision. So under that, it's a big world.
Yes, I like the whole idea of tribals. It looks to me that it's only applicable to growing companies or startups. Is there a way to change big companies?
Yes, but it's a lot harder. And when I see it implemented in big companies, it always starts with a small team, and then it grows wider and wider and wider. But I mean, nobody, as far as I know, would be a suicide mission. You wouldn't go in and just say, like, okay, we're restructuring, we're going to do this totally different now. It always starts with, we've got a small team here. And when I was building online, or when I build online communities for businesses, we always take a small team of about under 10 people to start with. They're the beta users of the idea, and then we start with them and we slowly grow it out to see what works, because every culture is so different. And that's the thing with all of this, is there's no one right way. There's no one answer to it. It really is. That's why the willingness to experiment needs to be there.
And the willingness to change.
And the willingness to change. And that's also very difficult, because you have this management position. There's people that they really like what they're doing. They have no interest in changing them at all. So there's the different levels. It's usually the employees who are really excited about it. And the CEO is usually somebody, because it's going to be more productive, it's going to be more money. And it's usually the middle management where where we stop, where that's the layer that usually needs to get busted in.
Because they are no longer needed.
Because they're what?
They are no longer needed.
Yeah, or they're treated in a different role, and also they're very comfortable usually where they are.
And you said you have to find the right people, because you have to have the right people in your company. So how do you do that in Happy Melly? How do you make sure? What are the criteria to find the right people?
Well, we focus more on failing people quickly.
Okay.
Because, I mean, in an interview, people are on their best behaviors. Even if you talk to them 5 times, you get a sense for who they are, but how you work with somebody on a day-to-day basis and how they communicate, that takes, it's just like any relationship, it takes like a while before you really get to know the ins and outs of somebody. So that's why, people are great, they have great skills, they look great on paper, they look great in the first 5 interviews, and then in 3 months you're like, it's time to fail them quickly. I don't know the culture in the Netherlands. I mean, in America it's a lot easier. You just hire someone. I think here it's like more difficult. Yeah, here it's more difficult, but still, it needs to be done. They're weighing the business down. Florian, you had a question?
I have the same question.
Okay. Yeah, it's all focused on hiring the right people. It's super critical.
How many people fail with Happy Melly, for example, like percentage on when they get in?
Yeah, that's also a difficult one, because there's many different ways that you can get involved with Happy Melly. You can actually become a business in your own country. You can become a translator. You can create content. So, people also weed themselves out when they don't fit. They kind of know, they feel uncomfortable a little bit. But Happy Melly is so new. It just started in April, so and that's one big experiment. But so far, with a lot of enthusiasm. Yeah, I don't have a percentage on it. But I'm focused on it.
Are you making money? You're making money?
Yes.
Good.
Yes, so far we're making money. Not a lot, but it wasn't about the money to begin with. And we all started volunteering just to keep it clean. Now we're trying to figure out, well, how do you, all the money, it's a global company now. We have people working in Brazil, we have people working in Russia, and how do you get the money back and forth, and what's fair, and currency exchange, I mean, it's just a big experiment.
If you focus on autonomy, wouldn't it be hard to judge when something fits your company? For instance, you say give it a couple of months, but again, if you don't really keep a close eye on what happens to that person, is personal development, that kind of thing, how would you say he's doing well?
So it's very much focused within your squad, so it's just the 5 to 7 team members there. And you can interchange squads depending on the task that you're working on. So, you know, you finish one task, you might join another squad, or you might go to another place. So, you can really tell on a small team, but they do anonymous surveys, I think on a weekly or monthly basis it is, so it's anonymous. And they can tell them where the problem employee ends up being, because it just shows up in the survey. So that I wish I had this survey here, because they have a whole, it's like there's green, and actually Google does the same thing. They have anonymous surveys, and the problem employees show up. And it's not usually about skill, it's about personality, which is interesting.
What basically happens with the larger companies is sometimes they are replaced in another part of the organization, not always, but when the person is alright, his personality is okay, and he's still passionate about the company.
Yeah, they usually get promoted to be managers, right? Now, I think in bigger companies, this problem, just like with a big, anything that scales up, the problem, it just becomes more and more complicated for sure. That's why I like the whole, the Spotify's approach, because they really tried to keep it into smaller groups, and I think that's kind of the key. I mean, after 150 people, you're just lost in a sense. But having these, the squads with the chapters and maybe just call it a new form of hierarchy. But it is an experiment, and it seems to be working. They have really high employee happiness in Spotify. Yeah. I don't know all the answers to it. I think nobody knows all the answers to it. But I think it's interesting to watch these businesses experiment with the different forms. Totally, after building communities, it's totally caught my eye. I was like, tribal, what is that? What does that mean? Yeah, we just have to see. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Okay.
Dan is nu nog even gelegenheid voor een kop thee en een kop.